Welcome back, friends. Today I am excited to talk to you about ways that you can spice up your writing. These are tips that will take some practice and that will require you to build your author muscle, so to speak. As an editor, I always try to remember that everyone has a personal preference and a personal style, and we are not able to really shift that very well. We just aren't. We are who we are, and that's okay. But we can challenge ourselves and we can push ourselves into a particular direction and stretch our abilities and our knowledge and tools. So that is what this is about. It's not about you having to completely drop how you're writing and pick up a new style. It's just some things to think about that will enhance your book. So to start at the beginning, let's remind ourselves that our memoir is a collection of memories. It's not fiction. And it's something that may very well be a collection that goes from very specific, very vivid, in the moment to vague bits that sort of hold this all together. Our memories are never going to be consistently the same, consistently vivid and consistently alive and well in an entire collection, right? We may have to kind of fill in the blanks here and there, and we may end up with language that says, hey, I'm not quite exactly sure how this happened, but as grandma tells me, fill in the blank. So that's okay. Some of these, there's a couple of things I want to talk to you about today. Some of them apply in general, and some you might feel the need to apply them sporadically. So let's dive in. The first item on the agenda is describing the way you describe something using adverbs. Okay, adverbs are one of those words that, it feels like they really hammer home in grade school. They want you to understand what adverbs are. We go to great lengths to talk about the blue sky and the fluffy kitten and those squishy looking clouds. And that's all great and fine. We need to understand how to describe something. But what that does in your memoir, it does this very sort of nuanced thing. It really takes a bit of the authenticity out of it. We start kind of feeling like you're trying to fluff it up. Like, okay, did she really remember? Like, is that really what she thought in the moment? Really how it played out right then? Or is this her future self dictating all of this and we're supposed to just believe it? Let me give you an example. When you write something like, I pulled up to my sister's house and I cheerily greeted her. Okay, we don't do that. We don't label what we're doing as we're doing it. We don't necessarily think about like, I'm going to be really cheerful right now. I'm going to cheerily greet. I'm going to happily greet my sister. I'm going to excitedly greet someone or excitedly shake his hand or hesitantly plunge into the deep end of the pool. No, we do those things. Those aren't inaccurate descriptions, but it is the way in which we apply the description that feels, I don't want to use the word fraudulent, but too fluffy. Like we're just trying to insert all of these fluffy little adverbs. They just don't work like that. So instead it's, I greeted my sister, hey, how's it going? As I hopped out of the vehicle. Like you kind of need to infuse that cheerfulness or that happiness or whatever the adverb is in a different way. It's not bad to show us that you're happy or cheerful or sad or whatever adverb applies here, or whatever a mood or emotion or action applies here. That's okay. That's not the issue. So, and also on that note, make sure that you do that. We need to understand that you pulled up to your sister's house in a good mood because maybe later something happens and you leave in this sour mood, and that's part of your story is how this all, developed. A couple tools that really help with this is, number one, avoid adverbs. Really, truly try to avoid them. There aren't a lot of places in memoir writing that they work very well, or that they aren't something that takes us a little bit away from feeling like we're there with you, which is really the ultimate goal. Even in past tense, we want to do that. So here's a couple things you can do. Number one, if you can find a metaphor that really hits home that description, smiling like a drunk idiot or whatever, whatever obviously calls to you. If there is a metaphor that you can find that really describes, we can almost see that smile on your face, right? If I say, like, I was just grinning like an idiot. Grinning like an idiot is just one of those metaphors, those phrases that we can see visually in our head. But if I say, I was grinning cheerfully, right? It's sort of like, what does that even mean? So metaphors are super powerful. Of course, you don't need to like drown your entire book in metaphors. They need to be used judiciously and appropriately in the right places at the right time. But if let's say there's a situation where a metaphor doesn't apply, or you're just struggling with it, and that's totally fine. And again, you don't need to use them in every sentence, but just stick to the facts. I greeted my sister. I hopped out with a bounce in my step. That might be enough to portray that I was in a good mood. I took a look in the mirror, gave myself a smile, and hopped out of the car ready for action, whatever, right? I'm not joyfully exiting the vehicle, and I'm not excitedly rushing to her, but I'm showing you the actions. I'm sticking to the facts. No adverbs, just facts. It doesn't require a metaphor necessarily to get that message across. So that's a good way to kind of flip that around. Excluding the adverb, using maybe a metaphor or just some very descriptive facts. It's just, first I did this, then I did this, and that shows in your emotion, your emotions, what your emotions are. I shuffled down the hallway. I mean, what does that say? You're not in a very good mood if you're shuffling, right? Or slouching or whatever. Those types of descriptors can really help when you think about body language, facial expressions, how someone is behaving, how you perceive that. If someone's sitting very rigidly and like there might be something they're scared about, if this is you perceiving this person in your story, you might start thinking, okay, he looks freaked out. What's going on? So not describing him like with those adverbs, but stiff as a board, right? That's a metaphor, stiff as a board. So think about how you can make that swap. Another way, and this is another one you need to be a little careful with, is, instead of saying like, I yelled hi, yell might be just one of those kind of common blah type of words. And you really want to use a different word that infuses a little bit of whatever your adverb was. I loudly yelled. Instead of loud, you can use yell and swap that out for something a little bit more applicable. Jump onto your thesaurus, but don't, word of caution here, don't get wild. You don't need to thesauricize, I'm making this word up, thesauricize the crap out of every word, right? We don't need to swap out every single word. Plain words have their purpose and their place. Don't be afraid to use them, but I don't ever want to see the word great. Yeah, I looked great. I felt great. It's like, what does that even mean? Great is just the most plain word. There is some words that as an editor, I will always flag. Give me something else. Give me anything else. So go look for an appropriate synonym that matches the feel and the mood and the moment. It has to match. It has to really either enhance it with a much better description, or it needs to really feel like it belongs and blends in. I shouldn't say or, it should probably do both, right? So instead of like, I loudly yelled, you could use a word like hollered or squealed, right? Squealed with delight, or something. There obviously are many options here for swapping out yell, but it depends on where you're at. Yell, and if you think about it, yell doesn't give you much emotion. Like, are you yelling in anger? Are you yelling because you want to get someone's attention? Are you yelling because, oh my gosh, I'm just so excited to see you? Yell doesn't do a lot for me. Squealed with delight, I know exactly what that means. Bellowed, that might give a different connotation. Every single word has a different feeling and meaning and connotation. It truly does. Even if their definitions are very, very close, or they're considered a synonym, not all synonyms are equal. They just can't be swapped in and out to do the job of the other synonym or the other word. It just is impossible. So again, be cautious, be judicious with this. Really think about it. You don't have to go off the deep end with your thesaurus, with your thesaurusizing. And you don't have to feel pressured to use like a ton of metaphors either. But these are just some tools to help keep you thinking on how to improve your descriptions and the way you portray the scene in your story. So that is that for today. I want to hear some metaphors that you've used in your writing, or a way that you've avoided using adverbs. Or I want to hear your arguments for using some adverbs, and give me a good example, because I'm always looking for good examples of why this worked. And then we can just like get into a discussion about it and make this very, very academic and fun and and active. You can tell I'm geeking out about this, right? So let's chat it up. I want to hear what you think about this one.